Hey students, it's Emily Poole. Let's talk about the Catholic Reformation. First, shout out to my shirt. I got it this summer when I went to St. Peter's Basilica, and it brings up a great point because we need to talk about Pope Julius II and Michelangelo. Friendly reminder that popes in the late 1400s and early 1500s, like Julius II, were using the sale of indulgences to fund things like the Sistine Chapel or the construction of St. Peter's Basilica. The Protestant Reformation breaks out, which calls out all sorts of corruption in the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church actually does respond and reform in the Council of Trent. And students, I need you to know 4 things about the Council of Trent that started in 1534. Number 1, it doubled down and reaffirmed traditional Catholic doctrine. They agreed that Latin is still the language of worship in a Catholic Mass. They affirmed that the Vulgate version of the Bible is the specific Catholic version of the Bible. They agreed that the worship of relics and images was actually important within the Catholic Church. And maybe most notably, they said, yeah, actually salvation comes through works and faith, not just faith alone, which is what these Protestants were preaching. Number 2, they actually reformed a lot of corrupt church practices that had taken root in the Catholic Church over the last couple of centuries. Forbade the sale of indulgences, they forbade simony, which is buying or selling church positions, and they also made bishops live in the lands where they were preaching. Number 3, they tried to contain the growing influence of the Protestant Church by publishing the Index of Prohibited Books. This was a list of books that the Catholic authorities said were dangerous or bad for the faith. The Index of Prohibited Books existed from the 1500s to 1966. Banned authors on this list include Niccolo Machiavelli, John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Denis Diderot, David Hume, Immanuel Kant, Jeremy Bentham, Voltaire, Montesquieu, Samuel Richardson, Daniel Defoe, John Stuart Mill, Dumas, Émile Zola, and Simone de Beauvoir. If students, you're thinking, I don't know any of those names, don't worry, you will by the end of the course. And number 4, they sought to bring people back to the Catholic faith, and they did this in 2 ways. Number 1 was commissioning new religious orders like the Jesuits or the Ursuline nuns. And number 2 was the commissioning of art. Jesuits were missionaries that focused a lot on spiritual piety and also education. Jesuits were responsible for a lot of missionary work in the Americas, but they were also responsible for missionary work in Europe in order to combat the spread of Protestantism. Baroque art should re-energize the faithful and should deepen the spiritual experience. All about the dramatic and a focus on emotion and dramatic spiritual expression. If you look at the inside of some of these Baroque churches, it's supposed to simulate heaven on earth. We see gold everywhere. And if you were a peasant living in Europe in, say, I don't know, the 1500s, you would recognize the spiritual and political authority that the church had if you walked into a building that looked like this. The Protestant Reformation happened in 1517, and the Catholic Church quickly responded with their own counter-reformation, sometimes called the Catholic Reformation. The Protestant Reformation doesn't only cause religious change, it also causes a ton of change in society, which is what we're going to get to next time. As always, students, you can do it. I believe in you.